My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubois. And have you ever wondered how one person can seamlessly transition from closing solar deals to running a successful wholesale real estate business? Well, today, my guest, Bryce Thigpen, hailing from the vibrant real estate market of the Panhandle. He's here to unravel the fascinating journey into the world of real estate entrepreneurship. Bryce, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Man, Bryce, thanks for having me on. It's awesome to be here today.
I only know one other Bryce in real estate, but we seem to do all right. So let's talk about the journey from the beginning here. It says that you started in house hacking.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest part of my journey, I would say, was right before we did our first house hack or our only house hack. That was really being in solar. The way I got my house hack deal was through all of the sales skills I learned while doing solar. And long story short, after about a year and a half, 2 years of being in the solar industry and just closing deals in and out of appointments every day, our lease was running up on one of our apartments that we were renting out at the time. So at that point, I was like, man, there's this duplex that my coworker had been trying to buy for 4 months, but they couldn't qualify for financing. So I called him up and he was actually wholesaling part-time. So I was like, hey man, can you get that under contract still? He was like, yeah, I got you. So I was actually supposed to buy it at 200,000 and he was going to lock it up at 190. Well, to our surprise, whenever we reached out to the agent, or not the agent, but the homeowner, he had it listed with an agent for 265,900 or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, I can't afford that. You know, we were doing an FHA loan, interest rates were 5% at the time. So the numbers just didn't really crunch out too well. Fast forward, I asked him like, hey, can you set an appointment? Can you have him meet me at the property and I'll just try to close him on the lowest price we can get. And that's actually ended up what happened. I printed out a CMA and this was my introduction into real estate. It was a straight up appointment and trying to close it out. So we actually got him to cancel the contract with the agent and we went under contract with him at 225,000. And I just negotiated a 5K assignment fee for the wholesaler because I pretty much did all the work on that transaction, right? So yeah, that was our first house hack. We moved into Unit B and we put in about 120 to 130,000 in renovations out of our pocket. And because we put solar on it, we also were able to take advantage of the tax credit, the 30% federal ITC tax credit. That actually saved me about 47 grand on my taxes that I did not have to pay. So net total for the house hack that we bought, we only spent like 90 grand out of our pocket net for the house hack. And the reason why the renovations were so extensive was because this was an Airbnb. So this was actually our first Airbnb. And because it needed a little bit more than cosmetic work, I really wanted to make it stand out to perform well. We were in central Pensacola, so we're not next to the beach. We got to have some kind of reason to bring people and guests to the actual units. And with house hacking in Unit B, and going through about a 4 to 6, 7 month renovation process, it felt like at the time we got Unit A up and running and it just started performing so well. We basically were making $200 a month living at the duplex. So that was our introduction into real estate, was basically profiting $200 a month to live somewhere.
So is there, that's interesting because then eventually you move out, you still own that duplex today?
Yes, this is actually a home we bought sub to. We own 2 properties. We own the duplex and this one right here. And now both units are rented out on Airbnb. And within the first week of putting our Unit B, where we were living initially, on Airbnb, it booked up the entire month. We were like pretty much 100% occupied. So it's seeming to match the exact KPIs as Unit A's performance is going. And man, like it's 33% cash on cash return with an FHA loan at 5%. You just can't find that anymore. So with this being said, we actually bought this sub 2. It was about 7% down, 10% total exact entry after closing, and it was a 2.99% rate. So now, like moving forward, I will no longer be buying traditional real estate. All we're pretty much doing is looking for that next creative deal to dump money into. We were just lucky to get in at the FHA at that time for 5%.
Yeah, because it's almost like you're buying the mortgage, not the house is great, but
Yeah,
the mortgage makes it a deal.
100%.
So, you mentioned closing solar deals and then eventually, moving into real estate. What were some big challenges you faced transitioning, and how'd you overcome them?
Oh, I love this question. I think a lot of people, when they get into real estate, their biggest challenge is closing deals, not necessarily anything else. For me, it was the opposite. I kind of had I underestimated wholesaling because when I thought the transition was going to be more like I'm closing deals in solar, let me just close deals in wholesale, right? Well, what I did not realize was, oh my gosh, system and data management is probably the hardest thing you're going to learn in real estate. Because if you're getting data from one source, but it's just not good data, you're going to have a bad call to conversion ratio and you're not going to be able to go on closing appointments.
Hmm.
So, from having a disposition sector, having a data sector, having an integration sector, just being able to build those out yourself is kind of impossible to do, to be honest with you. So we spent the majority of our time into transitioning into wholesaling, falling on our face.
Hmm.
Just trial and error, what systems work, what data works, what what tactics overall work in the system management we're trying to do, and then how can I delegate those out? Well, then you start delegating certain tasks out, and those people really aren't able to do certain tasks that they said they could do. So then you're kind of
Hmm.
redelegating and whatnot. So I think the biggest challenge overall was just delegations and really just system and data management. Everything else is pretty streamlined. In solar, it's very salesy. You're having sales meetings, you're constantly refining communication. You know the little one-liners to say, you're constantly tweaking your enunciation and your tonalities, but no one teaches you how to sift through different go high level products and how to fix certain automations and workflows in there and how to find people who can go in there and start utilizing that, which sites to pull data from, how different county websites are going to vary from how they're actually used to pull that data from.
Hmm.
So going through that for the year, man, I mean, when you start out in real estate, typically it's either you kind of fail and you grow through that, or you just join a team and you get the experience. So I didn't join a team. I just kind of went into the sub two community and just failed my way forward. Fortunately, I was able to because of the money I made in solar, but that was kind of I already understood that going into wholesaling that I was going to overcome some challenges and I was prepared to just bear the storm with that because I knew I was just going to have to learn and fail to learn the answers to what we need.
Yeah, and I envy American real estate. As I'm a Canadian here, we don't have any systems or lists. It's all private.
Mm.
So you have no access to information up here. You have to drive it from the dirt. Um, it changes the business in that it's like becomes about people and not lists. And so definitely I agree with what you were saying. A lot of people have challenges closing when they start within real estate. That's one of the things that I'm constantly having to like talk to people about. They're like, "Oh, what's the thing about closing?" I came out of sales and sales training, Jordan Belfort stuff, tonality and all that, and it all carries over in the sales side. When you look at the solar sales and you look at the real estate wholesaling, where do you find the biggest overlap and where's the biggest disconnect?
There is no disconnect, to be honest with you. Pace Morby talks one thing that instantly resonated with me when I was learning him, and what he did was you find the bunnies essentially. And in solar, no one went solar with me because they really wanted a solar system to reduce their electric bill. That's what made it logically make sense. But
Hmm.
oftentimes these people were going solar because they liked me and I was going to replace their roof, or they liked me and I was getting them a new AC. I would have to find their specific pain points. And that's the exact same thing with wholesaling. It's like, okay, you're getting all these cash offers. I completely understand that's not working for you. Like, what's your goal if you were to close this thing out? Where are you moving to? Oh,
Hmm.
you're just selling it for this reason. Okay, then we can implement this strategy. So the more you find
Mm.
the pain, the more you're going to be able to figure out how to close the deal.
Yeah, I always say to people when they're getting started, it's not we buy houses, it's we buy problems. If you can find the problem, you can probably unlock the deal. So with the short-term rental like management company, you and your girlfriend, like the dynamic duo here in the venture, what where does the line in the sand? Do you end up moving beds and putting together IKEA shelves? And is she, like, how do you divide the responsibilities between the two to make sure that you're both leveraging each other's strengths in the business?
So we did exactly what you're talking about with the Airbnbs we manage before we even decided to open up this company. And once we had that automated to a T, we're like, oh my God, we're a pretty good duo with this. So the line that we draw is I pretty much just handle the pricing. I handle the third-party integrations and I handle the softwares and automations and things of that nature. I also handle like the DBPR license, the intricate things in the back end. She handles the interior design, the customer service, the maintenance, anything that's actively managing the Airbnb, getting the cleaners in and out. If something's broken in a wall, calling 5 local maintenance people that are already on our list, right? I'm too busy over here with the wholesale side of business. So that's where it kind of plays like a nice little deviation. And then now that we're opening up this company, I'm going to be able to not just do acquisition so we can get more Airbnbs, but I can also do acquisition on clients so we can also just get more listings. Because at this point, sub two deals are great, but not all of them are Airbnb applicable. So if I'm looking
Hmm.
at all these sub two deals, not every single one of them is going to be something that we can manage ourselves. So at that point, it's better to go ahead and also look for client listings so we can just get as many Airbnbs as possible that we can essentially manage.
Hmm. Now, on the managing side, we were talking a little bit before the show about dead leads. So managing dead leads and partnering with others in your local community, joint ventures, sounds like a smart strategy. Can you delve into, how you identify potential deals and maximize profitability through these creative wholesale tactics, specifically on like the dead lead side? Because as a wholesaler, I might, go through a whole season and end up with, I don't know, a couple of hundred dead leads and that maybe like 10 deals in the summer season or something. And now I've got like a 10 to 1. Let's say I've got 90 leads there. How do you guys, manage the dead lead side of things to try to find some profit in there with a guy like myself? I'm stuck. I can't sell it.
Right. I have one closing April 15th. So in about 6 days, this was a dead lead brought to me from a local wholesaler. And anything that I think of as a dead lead is for some reason the cash price that you gave them did not work. And that some reason has to be more than just greed. It either has to be
Hmm.
the mortgage balance is too high, they have too much in arrears, there's something going on where a creative transaction needs to be implemented. The
Hmm.
beauty of creative finance is you can tailor it damn near to almost any situation as long as their problem is outside of greed. If their problem is greed, it's like, okay, they can wait to sell it. For this instance, the homeowner, if he had listed it, he would have probably lost a couple grand. And the home needed some work. It needed some new floor joists, so it had some
Yeah.
foundational issues. But he had a 4.8% interest rate. So at that time, we found out that the homeowner just wanted to walk away. He actually didn't even want to make too much money on the property. And it also was perfect for Section 8. The barrier to entry was so low. I mean, the cash offer was just not making sense. So when I got on the phone with him, he was ecstatic to find out that with my offer, he could actually pocket 3 grand and walk away compared to what every other wholesaler was offering him. So we put it under contract. We assign it for 7,500 higher to one of my Section 8 buyers that I know, all with a matter of 2 days.
Hmm.
Now it's closing 6 days from now, and I'm still getting sent leads from people local in my market that are wholesaling that just don't have that conversational ability of subject to seller finance transactions. Sometimes you're going to walk into situations where it's not as simple as giving them $3,000 to take over their payment. You now may have to negotiate their equity. This home right here that I bought sub two, we took over their mortgage payment at 2.99%. But we also gave them a second position lien of 60 grand with 0% interest and zero payments with the maturity date of the same date as the first mortgage. So it's basically like a 30-year balloon. And sometimes you're just going to have to go in there and negotiate certain ways when they have equity because you can't expect someone to give up $40,000, $60,000 of equity,
So you
right?
just push the equity to the future and let appreciation do the rest.
Yeah, or let's say let's do an example, a hypothetical. Let's say you, Bryce, you have a home, you have about 30K of equity, and maybe you
Hmm.
net 10K if you sold it today.
Yeah.
Well, you have a sexy 2% rate. And I'm like, Bryce, dude, what if I gave you $90,000 worth of equity, but you just finance it to me instead and you make more money over the long run? So I'll find people in certain situations where maybe they couldn't really use that 10 to 15K in their pocket right now. It's not going to do much, but receiving that 100K over a certain period of time means much more to them. So it's all goes back to what is their pain, but also a big one that I've been liking to explore is what is their gain? Because if someone doesn't have a pain point, well, then they have something they want to gain. And what is that? Is
Mm-hmm.
that instant liquidity in your pocket now? Or is that more money over time? Is that money over time, but with the balloon period, what is it that we got to do to solve this problem? So that's what I implement whenever I'm speaking to a dead lead.
I like that, fear or greed, right? Those are the two change positions. Nothing else in the middle will actually get people to move. Now, you say I'm helping people in my local market. What would you define as a local market? The entire Panhandle region, or is there a particular market that you can help people more than in maybe another further out market?
I can help people pretty much anywhere, especially in Florida. The reason I say local market is I can't go to meetups in Orlando or Tampa, but I can go to damn near all the meetups in my local city, Pensacola. So I'm literally just shaking hands, getting scans on my shirt. I wear a shirt where you can scan your QR code and just input your information. And because I do that so consistently in my market, people they know me. They're wholesaling in the city. They're like, oh, Bryce can probably handle this. So I
Mm-hmm.
just haven't went to enough meetups outside my city.
Yeah. So is sub two is really popular right now. And for good reason. The more interest rate is, moving in that direction, has been moving in that direction, doesn't seem to be shifting away from that direction. Is that the foundation of the business long term? Or, what do you see happening should interest rates go back down? I guess you'd have to then move back to traditional financing. Like, what's the plan if we see, not that I don't think we're actually going to see that again, but what's the long-term plan as far as from here? Is it on more on the management side, or are you going to continue to expanding that portfolio?
Sure. So the long-term plan, I mean, honestly, if let's assume I go buy 10 sub two deals in the next year and a half at
Mm-hmm.
2% rate. If interest rates were to go down, the majority of these deals that I'm buying were low to no equity. So if interest rates go down from like 7, 8% back to 3 to 4%, all of those deals that I just bought are going to skyrocket. And if I'm buying
Mm-hmm.
these sub two deals with no money out of my pocket and I'm funding it with a private money partner, then I just got a shit ton of free equity that I basically did nothing to achieve. So it's a win-win situation because if interest rates also don't rise, I can just keep scooping up more subject to properties at these low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's assume it does happen and the interest rates go down and you're finding yourself in a position of like, hey, how can I still obtain low interest rate deals? Right. And I don't want to do traditional finance. Well, you can always lean into what people have to gain. When you're finding yourself in situations where you have a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, a 4 bedroom, 2 bath home that's really nice, and let's say it has a bunch of equity, that's a perfect example of a play that you can do to still get a low interest rate, but maybe you're going to be paying a little bit higher than you would like. That's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of creative finance. If someone's home is worth 350 and they want 425, but they own it outright, I can give you 475 as long as you give me 2% interest and we can negotiate on terms that make me cash flow. No matter what deal I'm structuring, I don't care if I'm underwater. I just care if it cash flows because I'm going to keep it so long to where it's going to eventually go above water again.
Nice. So that's a lot of confidence in the sense that, let's say you're over equitying a property. You've made promises that the market is no longer allowing you to keep. What's your exit plan if you have to get out of this deal that's like sideways? I guess you'll just have to find the money.
So like let's assume it no longer cash flows is what you're saying?
Well, let's say you gave them the note, right? You said you promised a balloon in 30.
Mhm.
And for some reason, XYZ, and you have to sell. Is that now come term?
That is
You have
exactly
to
why
exit.
I will not buy a property with a balloon unless it's a minimum of 10 to 12 years.
Like if the seller isn't giving you a 10 or 12-year term.
I honestly won't even negotiate balloons, especially for subject to deals. If I'm paying you 3 grand to take over your payment, there's no need for a balloon. If it's a
Hmm.
seller finance deal and you have a lot of equity on the line, maybe we'll do a balloon, but I'm always going to adjust the total purchase price accordingly. If you want a balloon on the actual loan, then I'm not going to pay you as much as a deal where there is no balloon and I have less liability on it, right?
Hmm.
So it all comes down to that standard right there. But honestly, even if I'm paying 50 to 100K over asking, I just can't see me being in trouble 10 years from now, having to refinance out or sell the property.
Yeah, because as soon as interest rates go down, properties or values are going to go back up. And as long as you're committed to the exit, there's not really any downside. So from here on out, what's your future goal and aspirations in the realm of real estate? How do you plan to continue expanding and diversifying the portfolio in the coming years?
I love it. Before I answer that, one thing I didn't mention with your last question is we have an addendum for the balloon extensions if we do have one, to where
Hmm.
it basically protects us to have a certain percentage of equity, and if we don't, it extends the balloon an additional year.
So there's
Um,
like a fail-safe mechanism in the contract.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you got to have those, especially if people are doing like 3-year balloons, which is ridiculous to me. I
No,
don't how they sleep at
you're not
night.
going to get the appreciation over that term. Like you got to have a 5 or 10 year term, probably a 10 year term to really be able to like give a gain style
Yeah.
um exit like that. So let's talk about the future. I mean, obviously there's going to be sub twos, there's going to be the rental Airbnb management side of things. Um, what's the secret sauce that you think you got to take it to the next level over the next, say, 10 years?
I think the secret sauce I had was failing for so damn long and learning how to overcome my problems with system and data management. Um,
Yeah.
Having that intact, I have about 4 to 5 callers right now. We're onboarding this week. We're actually kind of starting fresh right now with this new software. So for 2024, I'm really excited to see how much we can rack up in assignments. I want to do 600,000 this year in assignment fees with just wholesaling. And then as
Hmm.
far as the property management side, once we have our website up and running, because we're still about a month out from it being fully streamlined. We can onboard people right now, but we don't have everything streamlined to where I want to start marketing this everywhere, right?
Hmm.
So I want to get about 10 clients as soon as possible. I want to do about 2 to 3 acquisitions a month, which I don't see being terribly hard in the Panhandle. We have a lot of Airbnbs over here, and I have a pretty large network. So I'm just going to go shake hands and get scans again. And that's my overall goal for just this year. In the next 5 years, I want to actually buy a creative finance deal for my family over in Colorado. My mom and dad, my sister lives over there currently. She just had a baby girl. And then I also want to buy ourselves a creative deal over in Colorado as well. The catch and why that's a 5-year goal of mine is I don't want to buy that deal unless I have enough passive income to actually cover what that's going to cost because we're going to be living there. So
Mm,
5-year goal is to have about $20,000 a month in passive income and to buy those 2 properties in Colorado.
there you go. And then you're retired. Congratulations. Then you can stop working forever, right? That doesn't
Nah,
sound like the type of guy you are. You'll keep working regardless. So for anyone who's looking to get started in real estate, they're aspiring investors, what advice would you have for them?
I really, really would figure out what your goals are first, and then I would see which avatar in the real estate space really aligns with those goals. For me, being a salesman, wholesaling was screaming my name, like, come over here, come over here. So if you are in a high sales position job and you're making a lot of money, but you're not having time to invest that money into wealth, wholesaling is a great alternative because you can keep the steady liquidity coming in, but then you're also going to be able to cherry pick those properties that you don't want to wholesale.
Hmm.
You're someone who has a W-2 job and you have a lot of time that you can invest on the outside of things, there's so many avatars that you could do on the side. You could be a connector, you could be a transactional lender. So I would really just figure out what your goals are for the next year to 5 years. And then I would go look at all the different real estate avatars and see which one aligns with it the most.
Hmm. Yeah, I always say that real estate's a tool. You got to figure out what you want it to do. So if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more, what should they do? How do they find you?
Instagram's the best way. I'm actually getting all of my connections off of Instagram now because not only can you see what I'm posting on my stories and how my life is, but I can see how your life is. And maybe I find a value opportunity in one of your stories. It's just better than a phone number or an email or a Calendly. So my
Hmm.
Instagram is Bryce Thigpen, BryceThigpen.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, appreciate you, Bryce. Thank you.
No problem. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.